snowing in Idaho yet?
Yeah, apparently.
Looking forward to going back to it?
Yeah, it's a little bit colder, but it should be nice. Get to wear some clothes I haven't in like 3 months, so.
It's kind of like having a whole new wardrobe.
Exactly, yeah.
Kind of fun. All right. Okay. So Logan.
All right. How many people in this class have younger siblings? All right, so most of you. As a younger sibling myself, I know how annoying we can be. As a kid, I was constantly messing with my sister, snitching on her to her parents, and generally just being a thorn in her side. But that doesn't mean she didn't love me, as I'm sure you love all your annoying little shits. That's why I'm sure the state of their schools must be a huge concern for you. In a 2018 study done by the Idaho Statesman, in Boise, my hometown, alone, lead was found in 23 of its 28 public schools' water. It's completely unacceptable. To give you a little context, the Boise School District isn't some low-funding, run-down school system. It's one of the best actually in the nation. 80% of this class has gone to public school looking at the demographics. If your siblings go to the same school you do, they might all be at risk. That's why we need to focus on improving the conditions of our schools and make sure our siblings, and even our future children, don't get sick. So, let's talk about the problem. Lead poisoning in a couple schools in some podunk state isn't really that big of an issue. It doesn't really affect you, right? Problem is, it's not just in a couple states, and it's not just lead poisoning. In a CNN article, in 2018, Baltimore schools had no heat for the winter. So as you can see in this picture here, taken from the article, a lot of the kids had to wear winter coats inside. But what's more shocking is that some of the kids, like that girl in pink, didn't have any coats to wear because this is a lower-end school. This has been going on in cities across the country. In a Washington Post article in the same year, schools are having to rely on GoFundMe pages rather than actual funding from the government. And although these pages may raise up to $75,000 in the most extreme cases, that's nowhere close to what schools need to be open to run. Our students shouldn't have to suffer just because they can't afford a winter coat. Education is supposed to be for everyone. However, that's not the worst thing. In a 2017 study of over 100 schools, the University of Iowa reported that children were exposed to as much as 175% the safe amount of polychlorinated biphenyls, or PCBs. Now, they said that at worst, there is 3 nanograms per meter squared in some schools that they surveyed. That might not sound like a lot, but consider what 3 nanograms of a very dangerous, very toxic chemical, unsafe for adults, let alone children, is prevalent in the schools. It's very worrying, wouldn't you say? I personally wouldn't want to breathe in any of that stuff. I'm sure that it cannot have a good effect on children. However, it doesn't only affect kids. In this graph shown, we can see that teachers' deaths haven't actually risen since the 1980s. There's been more and more toxic chemicals in their work environments, and that's affecting the kids too. It's not only about the kids, it's about some of the most underrated people of our generation. Some of the people who do the hardest work and get the least recognition. They shouldn't have to suffer simply because they're trying to help people learn. Now, there's a reason that all this is happening. It's a little subtopic called deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically a college student's either dream or nightmare. It's the action of putting off and putting off and putting off payments you're supposed to be making, improvements you're supposed to be making for such a long time that eventually everything starts to fall apart. In this graph, you can see schools are literally paying pennies on the dollar of what they're supposed to. A quarter a day per student is not acceptable. They're supposed to be spending about $4 per day. In total, in the United States, a Great Council of City Schools survey shows that, quote unquote, school districts had an estimated $271 billion of deferred maintenance in new buildings and grounds, averaging almost $5,000 per student. Think about that for a second. $5,000 per student. What could you do with $5,000 per student? Per person? That's completely unacceptable. Now, a popular counterpoint that people like to bring up when talking about this is that this is not an unknown issue. This is a very well-known issue. Politicians have been talking about this. They've been building their campaigns about this. You shouldn't really be talking about this. There's bigger issues to talk about. The problem is it's not being fixed. For example, the recent 2018 teacher strikes in Ohio are showing the absolute lack of money that teachers have in their communities. And the fact that they are not getting paid and they have to pay out of pocket on a very low salary to provide even adequate education is shocking. Not only that, but a lot of the recent improvements that people have been talking about, have been making, aren't actually as recent as you'd imagine. Well, it's very outdated. Lots of the improvements actually came from the 80s and 90s when education was less of a partisan issue. For example, in a 1991 hearing by the House of Representatives Subcommittee on Health and the Environment about the Public Health Service Act, the number of children suffering from lead poisoning went from 1% of the nation under the old standard to a staggering 15% under the new standard. That's pretty shocking. It means they had not been adequately treating and locating the they have not been properly confirming the amount of damage that this has been doing to children. That was in 1991 when they tried to step forward and make big changes. And arguably, you could say they could. But some buildings have not been updated with new pipes, new water, or other things like asbestos control due to deferred maintenance. Another note to note about those big improvements is that in an EPA article in 1996, the information is best available as of December 1995. However, with new regulations, technology, and interpretations, this information is subject to change. Updates on water pipes and asbestos and PCBs is not a one-time fix. You can't snap your fingers and make everything go away. You have to continually keep working on it as our technology improves, as our understanding of asbestos improves. Whoops. You have to. So another problem people have been talking about, though, is that it's not easy to make those changes because, number one, education is not a federal issue. A lot of people think, and rightfully so, that education should have no place being regulated by the federal government. They shouldn't give up money. It should be run by local governments. But the problem is local governments aren't distributing the resources towards education fairly enough. So, even if their students are hurting. The solution to this problem, then, is to go vote in your local elections. Local voter turnout has been dropping in years because mainstream federal politics has been getting more and more intense and partisan. However, that's no excuse not to vote for your local governor or state senators, etc. A lot of our problems nowadays stem from the fact that a lot of our policies are very reactive. We need to start making changes before they become a big issue, before we find out that lead is in most of our schools' water. We need to start voting leaders who make changes before bad things happen. So, you're all 18 now, you're all of legal voting age. I implore you, please start helping fix our dilapidated schools in the only way you can, with your vote. Thank you.
Okay. Logan, tell me what, in your research, what did you find most compelling? What did you know already about this issue, and what did you stumble upon as you were doing your research?
I had a friend send me that Idaho State sent an article, which was kind of what gave me the idea to do this. So, a lot of the stuff like the asbestos, like the 175% of like the safe amount was really shocking to me, and just the fact in general that like a lot of significant improvements have been made by the federal government since 1991, which is not good.